welcome to the new episode of RisknFlow. Today I have a wonderful guest. I'm honored to talk with an entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Olo, Markus Pesonen, all the way from San Francisco. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm super excited. First, tell me the name of the Olo. I think that refers to the Finnish word, right? Tell me a little bit, what is Olo?
Yeah, so Olo is a Finnish word that means feeling and being. And there's a lot of insights that we can get when we tap into that inner sense of what am I feeling? What does it tell me about what's going on? What feels right? Like we often talk about gut feeling, making better decisions, but it's also clearing obstacles. It's also, for a lot of people, reducing stress. It's about being able to sleep when you want to sleep, being able to go to deep work when we gotta really have to focus. So it's being good with your inner life and being curious about it.
That sounds wonderful and interesting. And as I also talk Finnish, it's interesting how the just 3 letters can be interpreted like in many other ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of packed into those 3 letters, and of course we like that as a design element of just circles and lines. It's very primitive and minimalistic in a way.
And tell me shortly what the Olo app does.
So yeah, Olo app is immersive sound journeys that help you mind wander. A lot of people know about meditation, but feel it inaccessible because it's too hard to start, too hard to jump in a short moment, or it feels like it takes a lot of time to learn a skill before you get to the benefits. So with Olo, all you have to do is nothing. We want you to take headphones, close your eyes, lean back, and just try to let go, let your mind wander, be curious about what happens. And we've been able to show that it really helps people to take micro moments of safety that regulate the nervous system. And so we talk about this biology first, bottom up, mental wellness, where you actually start from the nervous system level. And that's the foundation for then emotions and cognition too. So we just try to make it really simple and easy for you to take a moment with yourself.
I think that's what we need these hectic days, just to take a moment and be, which is the most difficult thing. I actually tried it myself, but before we dig deeper, Markus, tell me a little bit about your history, where you come from, where you born, a little bit about your childhood.
I was born in Finland as the only child, always curious, tinkering away something. I was always creating some kind of art piece or Lego thing. Or I remember there's a lot of that starting to create movies really early on with friends. And then, of course, music came along and so on. So I was in Finland until my late teens, early 20s. Then I moved to Copenhagen, pursued studying music there. And then I went to Berlin from there. So quite early I went out of Finland, and most of my life has been then traveling. So yeah, I became a musician, composer. My whole 20s I was on the road playing music, working with, also dance, theater, film music, like really wide palette, and I enjoyed that. But then doing 100 shows a year for 5 years straight was quite hard on the body and the mind. And mostly concerts, and sometimes playing music or creating music to performance art or things like that. And I think it started from just a simple back pain. and I wanted to go to, I think it was Ashtanga yoga. You learn the whole series in a weekend. It's like a gym kind of. I was in Denmark then. But then later, I went to India to study Indian classical music. So I went to like Ayurvedic hospital and got a completely different point of view to yoga, which was more like people would tell you, this is how you just move like this, and then they would prescribe personalized movement medicine for you. And that was kind of eye-opening. The whole India trip was really eye-opening because I realized the way that these people also listen, the way that music is being used is a really different. There's a time theory with ragas for different times of the days. So I guess long story short, being on the road for 100 concerts a year, I realized that this is so tough on the mind and the body. I have to find some solutions. So I went for yoga, meditation, neuro-linguistic programming, everything that I could find around wellness and personal development, I guess kind of early biohacking. And I always ask myself, why is all the wellness content quite static and flat? And there's often someone talking, telling you what to do. And I had this early experiences myself where I was really transported with some kind of soundscape or music or something like that. And I thought like there's something there about accessing the subconscious through something immersive. And that's how I started to bring together this health and sound dimensions.
That's super interesting. So you have like sort of artistic background with the music and the movement. As a dancer myself, the physical body and the mind, they are really, really connected. And as you mentioned, after being on the road a lot, working hard, it's tough for the mind and the body. And then you finally realize maybe you need to stop and sort of turn inside yourself and let's see what you can find from there. And as you jump to the different cultures, the India and all that, I think when going sort of out of your own culture or comfort zone, it's always you can come up with something new.
Yeah, it was a lot of traveling back then. And I really distinctly remember, since we're talking about risks, the kind of, I guess I didn't realize that it was a risk to just go out there and be all the time on the road. But I think the one really conscious big risk and change was when I was 2014 playing in the Royal Albert Hall. And afterwards, I had been just on the road for 5 years, and I felt like some kind of emptiness, and it scared me. And I was thinking, oh, my identity is so wrapped around this music thing. I'm interested of something else. I want to go beyond that somehow. Now what? It's kind of like an identity crisis type of thing. And being able to, because things were kind of picking up as a musician and could have continued that, but I felt like I really wanted to pursue what's there in the personal development and sound. And there wasn't much anything out there back then. Like there wasn't a lot of these examples of like, oh, it felt like, at least from my point of view, it felt like me now as a serious composer starting to do some wellness music. It's like shooting yourself in the leg. Like this is the riskiest thing you can do to ruin your reputation. And of course it was all in my head. It was not like somebody was really caring that much. But I remember people coming to me like, what are you doing? Like, are you a musician anymore, or what are you after here? And I had the period of doing some visual art and kind of installation art as a transition phase between the music career and finding what I'm doing now. But it's risky to walk away from your profession or the way that you've been doing it and then trying to find something new.
When was that? Was that developing the idea of the Olo when you start transforming from your music career to doing something that is not considered professional for your area of expertise?
Yeah, it was. There was a wish to discover something new. And that's exactly the same time when I met my co-founder, Katarina. So she's a somatic therapist, mental health professional, and she had all those complementary skills that made it kind of more safe to venture into this area, because I could create some kind of experience with sound, but I didn't have the kilometers with people holding sessions. And since Katarina had done like, I don't know, now she's done like 10,000 sessions one-on-one with people, or a couple of hundred retreats and workshops. So she just had that expertise of holding a space, working with people. So we would know that whatever comes up, because actually these are really powerful experiences. And sometimes people have things that really come up that are important or strong or need integration. So then it's good that there's someone who really knows that work. So the risk that we took together was we reduced our pretty successful freelance work to like just 20%, like the minimum that we could just pay the bills. We rented a house outside of Berlin, went to live in the countryside for a year for a type of a vision quest of like, okay, we both aligned to wanting to do something in this area. This whole thing is like, there is rapidly growing mental health problem, technology that is really starting to pick up. There were these classic predictions of the singularity of 2029, but you could really feel like something's really picking up. And at the same time, being worried about biodiversity or species collapse or this kind of more. So in this cross section, we started to see like, what's the best possible thing that we could do? What would be, is there something we could be aligned to do like decades to come? And that's where we started to arrive to this idea, but it took a while because then we were 2 years on the road. So that's another taking a risk, giving away your apartment. We didn't know where we lived. So we were kind of nomadic researchers for 1.5 years, where we're just traveling around Europe and the world, recording nature sounds in high biodiversity areas in 3D, creating sound journeys, recording music and creating these experiences, and then holding workshops and retreats, and having like a living lab on the road, gathering feedback with over 5,000 people, going to also like hospitals and caregiving homes, schools, workplaces, and just investigating what's the therapeutic potential of immersive listening experiences and somatic education. So this was like, we just went on a quest,
When was this? What year was it?
Oh, this was probably like 17 to 18, something like this.
Yeah, I just think it just before like the COVID and all this happened. So you were on the road.
There was several. Yeah, that was that time, and that trip then landed us buying the property for Olo Center, and plunging into another adventure of, let's buy this old log school between two nature parks in Finland. It's this lakeland region, Saimaa, with thousands of interconnected lakes, and you're like swimming and drinking water. Yeah, it's really beautiful out there. But again, another risk, like we've been in the cities, that's where people are. So let's go out in the middle of the nowhere, buy a property, plan to renovate it as a retreat center. And our expertise before that was that we had renovated one kitchen. So that was kind of good that we didn't know what we were going into, because we would have been scared away probably. But then you learn a lot when you renovate a place like this. And that we did then just before COVID. And just when we were ready, to open doors for international retreat tourism. Then COVID started. So yeah,
That's interesting that you have been on the road with the music, then you find somebody who shares the same passion, and then you have just this only idea to giving up everything, moving to the countryside, go to the road again. It seems like there's a lot of risks to come to go place to one another. But I want to know, what was really the turning point on your career? You said you started to maybe question yourself with the music career, but what was the turning point? What happened when you wanted to do this transition to explore yourself? Was there some inner crisis or something like that?
well, I think that was the combination of that time that I mentioned, just being on the road for 5 years, playing a lot of music, recording a lot of music, making a lot of albums, and feeling, I think I was in New York. Yeah, I was in New York alone, and I was going there as a kind of more like jazz musician, contemporary musician, expecting to be really immersed in the music. And somehow I started to find other parts of life more interesting than just the music. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love music, and that's really big part of still of what we also do. But my interest expanded way beyond that, and I was worried about that, because I was like, if you want to be really good at this one thing, you really have to drill down to it and keep the focus there. And I felt like there's connections that I started to make. My free time was all the time on personal development and wellness. And I think it was through this personal crisis of who am I? What am I doing? It's like giving up something good to chase something great. That was the catalyst. Being able to like changing the identity, I think is the hardest thing, or a sense of identity, or this kind of, you just in some clothes and it doesn't feel like they fit you anymore, but you don't know what's next either, and you just kind of go out there. And I had this 3-month period. I was in New York, LA, Mexico, Guatemala, and it was a quest of traveling alone, trying to figure out what's really important to me. Yeah.
It really sounds, it's like some kind of inner urge that made you to do this decision to change of the career, taking all these risks. What do you consider is the biggest risks so far you've taken?
Yeah, it's true that you say it's inner urge, and that's the kind of funny thing about it. Like when you get that inner feeling and it's strong enough, your mind might be fighting it, and it's like, no, I want to hold on to it. But this, at the same time, it's like you have no choice in a way. It just like feels like I have to. If I don't do this, I will regret forever, you know. And the risks are constant. I guess they're getting bigger in external size, but internally maybe the feeling of risk stays the same. You kind of like, you're being able to take bigger and bigger risks. Leaving your home country, one, leaving your profession to start something new, second, moving from a city to unknown place in the countryside to build a retreat center, a giant risk. And then we survived. Like COVID started, we had to pivot completely. That was a challenge more to inland tourism in order to keep the place running, which was great because Finnish people really loved it. And it was like, okay, this was a good, but we had to open a hotel in 2 weeks with Katarina. So that was also really funny. And then from there, like getting that off the ground and immediately then spin off to a startup and move to Silicon Valley to build that, wanting to keep the momentum and lean as much forward as you can without falling on your face. So I guess for me, it feels like a continuation. It doesn't feel necessary as like a one risk. It's just kind of, as soon as you have enough stability, you look for the next edge.
To jump or
Yeah.
take the next step.
Yeah.
So you, during the COVID, you were in Finland, and then you ended up to San Francisco to develop the Olo. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that was a funny time, and I have to add, just before COVID, we were recording some nature sounds in São Tomé and Príncipe, the second smallest African country, an island nation with 40% endemic species and plants. And we had thought like a world needs to slow down a bit, like let's go there for a month and record. And on the day that we flew back, it was the press conference of COVID and starting to close borders and stuff. So it was just the time, it was eerie. But then actually having our own retreat center, of course, there's a moment of crisis, like, okay, we just starting a new place and now there's no travel, like now what? But then really quickly we started to do more digital things, and we realized actually that the Olo content and the sound journeys and our concept, the workshop worked really well online, and we could actually make things even faster and better just online. So that led us to the idea of like, now all this experience we have from holding retreats and workshops and in-person things, we can distill this and start to expand. So I think COVID also was a catalyst. We wanted to go digital first anyways, and we have been talking about building an app, but I think COVID was a catalyst to speed that up a bit. And then we started kind of thinking about it, but it was not only right after COVID that we then felt like, now is a good time. Let's just go to Silicon Valley. Somehow I'd been in the West Coast in California before, and I always felt like there's something about it where, for lack of a better expression, you can live the closest to the future. That was intriguing us, I think. And then weirdly enough, it just felt really easy and home-like here. I guess because Katarina's originally Portuguese and Finnish, we never really felt like it's completely best scenario to live in one of our countries. Wanted to like, that's why we lived in Switzerland for a bit, like a neutral zone in the middle. But then maybe California feels even more appropriate. So it might have felt like a risk, but actually felt like, oh, this is actually easier to be here in a weird way.
Sounds great. Well, obviously, when we look to the entrepreneurship world, the startup world, it's there, the funding. How is all that process of developing all application? Did you have any connections there, or did you need to start like a zero? How did you get the funding?
Yeah, so I think for us, the good part is that we had done so much work already before. We had piloted the content with over 5,000 people before building the app. We had made revenue with it, so we were not starting from nothing. So we could bootstrap it quite far, and we didn't need to we were actually offered even money before that we didn't take because it was not the right time. And now we're just looking to build a community. So everything starts from people. People do everything, right? So going into events and doing our own events, that started to build the core community and see who is our friends and allies and supporters, and starting to find people who could work with us. And then through that, it led into finding people who would want to invest on us or help in some other way. I guess there's no better way to explain it than you just try to show the value and the vision that you already have or you want to build. For us, having the experience, like showing the experience and seeing how that makes people feel, and then you bring in the business model elements of like, this is what we want to build. And it's, of course, not everybody will get it. And that's the whole point. You have to find the people who resonate with you and get it and are in the early first wave of people who are willing to like, hey, this is something great. I believe in this. Let's go. But yeah, that's super exciting. I'm not going to lie. It's not like easy thing to do. And what I said in the beginning about making good decisions and trusting your gut, it's so much about that, because there's so many things that might look good on paper, right? I guess we all have this moments in life where something looks so good on paper and maybe our gut feeling is a bit like, well, I don't know, maybe not. And then we just kind of try to push it. And then we realize like, yeah, actually it was not. I just didn't see. We don't get all the data. We don't have all the information. So sometimes our body, our gut, our subconscious that somehow has all the little details can somehow have a sense of what's right and what's not. Even our conscious mind doesn't have maybe yet the complete picture of it. So I don't know if you experienced this, Jane, but like I had to learn it many times where just listen to that inner voice, because there's often truth to what it's trying to tell you.
That's super interesting, the concept of gut feeling and the body, because on my experience, the body reacts, as you also explained. It tells you something, but your conscious mind wants to say something else. But then your body is like, no, maybe it's not correct. And what I've learned from dance, from yoga, if you just stop and listen, it wants to like sort of tell you something. Of course, we are human beings. We are more than like a conscious mind, obviously. That's at least that's what I think. And if you get that feeling, something, maybe it's not correct to make the decision.
Yeah, it's like an inner compass, and it's important to calibrate it. Like it's a skill, right? To listen to that feeling. But I think it requires us to slow down a bit. Sometimes we're like pretty cut off here or just in the head of thinking, and we need to kind of have that zoom out experience to have a better viewpoint. And I guess that's why Olo has been successful among certain people, because they use that for that. They get this inside 5 minutes, a zoom out to kind of clear the noise and feel that what's important.
You said, of course, it's not always easy. There's obstacles and all that. What are the major challenges you faced maybe in this digitalization of the concept?
Oh, there's so many, right? So building up the digital company from the woods where we started when we were in the retreat center. The biggest challenge was actually not so much the product or the content or things like that, but building the networks and finding the right people, finding our way from the woods of Saimaa to Silicon Valley and being able to make those connections. It's a kind of a long journey. It depends how well connected you are, but I guess for somebody who was a lot in another scene before, in another country, to find that path of connections with people, that's quite challenging, and it takes quite a lot of connections to find your way. People are just the hardest thing. I think finding the right people and hiring the right people. Whenever you talk to other business leaders too, this really comes up because it's really challenging, I think.
Yeah, the minds of the people are different, and of course finding the community, finding the people that maybe see eye to eye what are you doing and want to support your journey and development. That's the hardest thing. You also have faced many risks during this journey. What do you think how your interpretation to the risks has changed? Do you see the risks the same way as before?
Maybe being younger, it was more like just running with it. And now the risks are more intentional, a little bit more calculated. They have a longer life maybe, or they have like, maybe they are bigger in the sense of monetarily or otherwise, like you will need to invest a certain amount of time before you really get to see how it realizes. I think that kind of relationship, choosing more and more carefully, it's kind of like just gotta do a lot of no's to choose which are the right ones to then risk on. I don't know. I think that's mostly it.
Is it the risk to trust your gut feeling?
Well, sometimes it might feel like that, like there might be something, an opportunity that looks really good, and the gut feeling is saying something else. Or the other way around, where something maybe doesn't look that promising on paper, but it feels like there's something there and you want to kind of uncover it. So yeah, it can feel risky, but at the same time, it's also really risky to go against your feeling of what's right. Maybe even worse.
Oh, that came up. Another question about the failures. Have you failed on something during this journey? And actually, the word failure, do you see if you like fail? Is it a failure or is it a? How would you describe that? Do you feel you have failed if you've done something that didn't turn out as you planned?
I mean, of course, certain things don't work out and you learn from them. Well, quote unquote, failing, I think it's the fastest way to figure out what works. So I framed it for myself just about like, it's part of figuring things out, part of like learning. So we can use the word failing for it because it's, you try and you fail or you succeed. So I think there's a lot of failures. It's very natural. And I think it's being an entrepreneur, and also a musician, like you play a concert, if it's not good, there's not another one, or you have to start another a way around. So it's very brutal in that way. Having a relationship to things not working out is really important, to have like a healthy relationship to that. It's okay to feel the feelings of disappointment, nothing wrong with that, but just that I guess I just try to see it like, try to be as honest as possible with it. Like, does this have resonance? Does this feel like there's something there? And it doesn't, I mean, sometimes something doesn't work at first, but you don't want to give up on that because you didn't feel like it got a fair chance yet. So it's testing ideas. When something doesn't work or fails, it's just super clear to try something else. And it can be really relieving. Like, truth is really relieving in a way, because then you have again this no choice moment of like, I have to admit that now this is not, and something else, and it opens often up to see more possibilities.
Yeah, the failure, it's you have always possibility to try again. What came to my mind, it's like the phoenix bird. It just burn and then you grow something else from there that has gone to the dust. But hey, there was did I understood correctly that the launch was the Olo app was just recently?
Yeah, so we have now this launch month where we're having events in the Bay Area, LA, and then also in the East Coast in New York. The app is out there, so you can get it both on iOS and Android. It has like a freemium model, so there's something you can hear, and then there's a premium, there's a free trial, so you can get more of those different concepts and insights from your listening. We're really excited to bring it out because there's so many years of work behind it leading up to that. And true to our origin story, we are doing this event that people can have the experience live and connect with each other as well.
How was the feedback of the launching of that?
Oh yeah, that was great. We were quite nervous because we were like, we haven't done like a tech launch before or this kind of event, like how it's going to be and so on. And we're still quite early in building the network here. But yeah, then 200 people wanted to come in. We couldn't fit everybody in. It's really a great moment when there's a lot of people having a synchronized experience. We have this eye mask, so it's like pitch black. You can have your eyes open and it really helps to go into the inner experience. And then feedback was phenomenal. People were saying all the things that we wanted to talk about on stage anyways afterwards. So there's people talking about how it helped for them with getting to sleep better. Somebody was talking about helping with panic attacks. Somebody got an epiphany to a problem they had been trying to solve for 2 weeks and couldn't find. And then during the sound journey, they could see. And there was a lot of like just different examples of how people have found it useful. And that's really what this all is built on. Like we wanted to know, is it really useful and in what way, and how can we help to make it more so. So, I mean, people say it was one of the best launch events for them. So I guess we have to believe it. And we really loved the whole occasion.
And you describe it sort of relieving the anxiety, maybe helping with your emotion. Is there any like scientific evidence that support this sound immersive journey when you just calm down?
Yeah. So we there was a recent study done with the Olo soundscapes with 53 people measuring heart rate variability, electrodermal activity, and psychological questionnaire. And we got a really significant result against control. So there's one good study done, and we're hoping to do more. Of course, we have a lot of anecdotal evidence of just what people are telling us, but it's great to then also really measure it. And we know that there's a lot of science already done, not about Olo, but in general about the effect of sound in the nervous system and in the brain. And we're kind of building on that literature because I really believe that sound can be a medicine and in many areas. Now we're focused really on mental wellness and mental performance because that seems to be such an important topic. So if there's people who feel like I cannot meditate or I couldn't be successful with trying to make it a habit, or just having a problem of winding down to sleep or getting into flow state or deep work, I think those are the main use cases. Reducing anxiety. When we regulate the nervous system, it opens more cognitive capacity, and that makes everything easier. Decision-making work, it changes mood, things like that.
Sure, and that's wonderful when you say like sound is a medicine. Like maybe this is unpopular opinion, but most of the illnesses are like dietary based and all this lifestyle based that you sort of could get rid of if you take that leap to change something in your lifestyle.
Yeah,
whether it is the food, like I talk with Ari, the founder of Elo Health, maybe it's the sound that changed something in your body, like the heart rate and all the physical that happens in the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's really lifestyle related. A lot of the problems we have, and 75 to 90% of doctor visits are stress related. Stress is a huge factor in mental health, but a lot of other chronic diseases and so many things. So by being able to reduce that level of stress that affects so much digestion, mental health, a lot of different functions in the body, we usually say that the symptoms and the problems can be many, but the root causes can be sometimes quite simple. To be able to just start to improve the baseline homeostasis of your body.
That's super wonderful. I'm super excited about the Olo and its future, which leads me to the one more question for you, Markus. Do you have any fears or maybe dreams related to your career in the Olo or your personal life?
On the dream side, I'm really passionate about our built environment. I dream of our surrounding can be more health and well-being inducing. And in a way, we are working with the built environment already through the retreat center. But funnily enough, as an environment, we chose the app or digital because it tends to be that our digital environment is sometimes the most prominent one. And with sound, you can immediately change your perceived environment. But my dream would be really to be part of making this human zoo more habitable, and make it more healthy, more beautiful, because our surrounding has such a big impact on our inner life. And sometimes we don't even recognize how important it is. So my dream is to see more places and spaces in cities that are social wellness clubs, that are places where we bring the nature in different ways into our lived environment.
What about the fears? Do you have any?
My fear is that we will have a rapidly accelerating technology, but no human alignment, and we don't pay enough attention on the collective mental health problem, and then we just like have more and more powerful tools, but we don't evolve in the humane part of our society, and that could lead into a really bleak view of the future.
Yes, because at the end, it's always like human to human. There is person and there is other side. Maybe it's not the company, or always you are connected with a human being, with a person. But hey, one last question. Who would you like to see and hear as a guest in my podcast, RisknFlow?
Talk to Sam from Solo. He's a Finnish founder who's building something really interesting in the biotech area. I think it would be interesting for you to talk with him.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I'm definitely going to contact him and ask if he wants to participate. At last, Markus, I want to thank you for being here today, sharing your story, your personal risks from the musician to the middle of the nowhere to the San Francisco, sharing the story, sharing us about the Olo, letting us know the Olo application and its effects on us, and how important it is to bring also those mental health problems awareness to us. And that's super important work you are doing, and I'm super excited about the future of the Olo. Thank you, Markus, for being here today.
Thank you, Jane-Marie. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you. RisknFlow also says thank you for the listeners, and see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.